welcome back. Recently, I've been working with my students before the end of our or beginning of our winter break, creating snowflakes. And they're a great process because they only require paper and scissors. And you'll see me demonstrating with a pencil as well. And I like working with snowflakes because when we usually make art, we're adding material, we're either color with colored pencil or marker, or pigment and paint with a brush. And with snowflakes, we have to reverse that thinking. And we're removing material, and then we never quite know how it's going to turn out. So there's a moment where there's uncertainty, or it's just a bit of a mystery. Before we get to see the final result. And I think that's an important thing when we're young artists to get comfortable with the idea of not really knowing exactly how things will be, yet going forward and taking that risk in the first place. So the materials you'll need for this project are a pair of scissors and a pencil. And I recommend using a pencil for snowflakes when you really have an idea for a design that you want to control a little more tightly. And so you'll see me demonstrating drawing simple shapes with my pencil to create a Snowperson snowflake. So the first thing is we have to turn this rectangular piece of paper into a square. And so the easiest way to do that is to turn your paper so that it's portrait, which means it's going to be the long end is horizontal, which means it's going up and down. And I just take my top right corner and I bring this top edge down so that it just lays right on top of the side edge. And so I take a moment to line up that edge, make sure the corner's nice and aligned, and then just I pinch off and smooth off the top first, and then using my other hand holding this edge in place, I use my finger to crease the rest of the paper. And then from here I have this really great straight line created by the other edge that helps me see, okay, I can just remove this extra amount, and then I will have a square piece of paper left behind. And what we know about squares is that the length of all four sides are the same. And so if you're ever stuck with a rectangular piece of paper and you want a square, that's how you can turn it into a square, by taking the short end and then using that as a measurement for trimming the long end, and then the result will be a perfect square every time. And then now that I have this larger square piece of paper, I want to fold this into a smaller square for cutting. And so I'll bring it across, folding it and lining up those edges, and then just creasing down the middle, and then doing the same thing after I turn my paper. Lining up those corners. It can be a little trickier because the edge is a little thicker now. And so pinching it, and then just smoothing it. And then I have this crease going through the middle, which isn't too big of a deal because once I cut and unfold, there'll be too much other detail to pay attention to. But I do want to talk about how you want to cut. So on one side, I have open corners, right? I can see my layers created by folding my paper on top of itself. And then on another side, I just have this corner. And so this corner, we need to remember, is the corner that keeps everything together. Okay, so this is the corner that is the center of my snowflake. And knowing snowflakes and having done them repeatedly, I know that I want things to be connected by this corner so that I have that repetition or that pattern or that symmetry, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, or maybe a few minutes. So keeping in mind that this tighter corner where things are connected is pointing toward me, and so I'm designing out from this corner. And I'm thinking of a snow person. And so I want my proportions to be even, and I want to make sure that where I cut things leaves me with a successful design that I'm pleased with. And so knowing a snow person, every time we make a snow person, we usually start with round mounds of snow. So I'm thinking of a large oval. Of course, I don't have enough space to draw the entire oval, but what I can do is I can sort of imagine sort of the proportion. And so what I'm thinking is I'll draw a large oval kind of coming out, or part of an oval coming out and then going back. And so I'm just sketching my lines really lightly, and this way I can erase them easily if it's important for me to do so. So that's sort of the base of our snow person. And then I'm going to draw another sort of medium-sized oval, just kind of sketching and positioning things. These lines are just guidelines, so since the drawing itself isn't the final product, I'm not too concerned about sort of having dark lines that people can see. I'm more concerned about the proportions. And so I'm drawing this oval, and then for the head, I'll draw more of a circle shape, just like that. Now I like the idea of my snowman having my snow person having a top hat. And so what I do is I like to draw the brim of the hat, just like so. And then I'm gonna draw a rectangle or squarish kind of shape coming off from the top as well. So this gives me the general shapes of my snow person. And so now I'm just going to outline the lines that I want to make sure my scissors follow. And then I want to make arms for my snow person. And so knowing that if I go above these parts where the paper comes apart, it becomes a little more delicate. And so I'm going to draw my arms so that they kind of swoop lower. They're connecting to the part that I know connects to all the other snowflakes. And so what I'm doing is I'm just drawing the shape of the arms first. And I'm actually going to draw mittens on top. So I'm getting the width of the arm figured out right now. And then I'm just going to draw sort of the end of the mittens right here on the wrist of my snow person. And then the actual mitten shapes overlaying that last corner. And then I'll draw the shape of thumbs and the rest of the mitten as well. And so you can notice I'm sketching or drawing a little more intentionally when I have more detailed lines and detailed shapes to be concerned about. And so now I just kind of go over and just make sure I can see my lines the way I want them to. Make sure my scissors have clear guidelines to follow. And then when you're done drawing, you want to find your scissors. And so now that I have my lines drawn out, I don't have to think as much about the design. I don't have to anticipate as much. I have an idea, right? Knowing that I have 4 layers of paper, I'm going to see this silhouette 4 times, but I'm not exactly sure how it's going to turn out. And so now it's time to cut. So I'm just going to follow. You're going to see me just turning the paper in my scissors, following all the different lines I created. Maybe ignoring them in some places where I think I could cut a little more carefully or cut a little more intentionally. So as you can see, I've removed everything outside of those lines, and now we can unfold it and see how it turned out. And so when you have pieces that are like this, that are a little thinner, you want to be really careful that you unfold slowly so that you don't tear any fragile parts of your paper. Would you look at that? Now I have a Snowperson Snowflake with the shape, the profile of all the shapes I sketched repeated 4 times. And so this is also a great example of symmetry. And this specific type of symmetry we call radial symmetry, which means that you have similar shapes or similar patterns or similar colors repeating, but repeating out from the middle. So in this case, every quarter of my shape is the same Snowperson snow profile. I hope you enjoyed this snowflake, and I want you to think about when you have a more complicated design idea, not being afraid to use a pencil to incorporate and help you plan your design so that in the end you have a successful object that you are proud of. Until next time, keep creating. Bye.